DnD is the greatest game of all time and no one can convince me otherwise, fathering a whole slew of wonderful tabletop games that have created memories throughout the generations, all through a game that lets you do practically whatever you want, so long as everyone agrees to it. The alignment chart is one of D&D's most iconic creations, using a table to categorize a character using the concepts of good, evil, lawful, chaotic, and neutral to create a moral and ethical axis that helps define a character is ingenious. But, and there is always a but, don't just stick to one alignment. Your character, especially one you hold dear to your heart, will likely undergo changes. If you restrict the character to just one sort of moral value, it stifles their ability to grow and create interesting narratives. That being said, it's still fun and useful. The 9 are as follows: Lawful Good, Neutral Good, Chaotic Good, Lawful Neutral, True Neutral, Chaotic Neutral, Lawful Evil, Neutral Evil, Chaotic Evil. The 9 flavors of the pizza. First up on the list is Lawful Good. It combines lawfulness and goodness and spins it into one person. Sounds simple, but it's really not. In fiction, a lawful good character stands out from the rest because they tend to either rise up as pure paragons of virtue or fall into the trappings of idiots who cling to the literal word of law far too much. This is due to the fact that lawful good characters believe that goodness is inseparable to order, and that a strong ethical code is necessary to truly be good. In times of crisis, the dilemma arises. Shall I be good, or shall I follow the law? Lawful good characters who refuse to bend the rules for the greater well-being of everybody tend to manifest as Knight Templars or lawfully stupid people. That goodness can only be a result of following the law, even when that law has shown to be damning to the greater good. Excellently written LG characters understand the spirit of the law. They will adhere to principles and are willing to cast aside laws that hurt more than they help, while still believing in the genuine value of order. Very likely to be the good king or ideal hero. Lawful good is basically saying that order is good and good is order, but a neutral good will just say that good is good. NGs are usually written as protagonists. We always see tyranny rise from draconian laws, and we see death and decay swallow up lands with no order. At times the enemy is too much order, in others it's too much chaos. NGs seek to do good above all else. They are willing to fall in line and adhere to the code if and only if it results in good things. They are also happy to break the law and start a rebellion if that is what is good for the people. Because again, NGs are literally the embodiment of sweetness and niceness and all that generically goody two-shoes jazz. Because too much order can restrict good, and too much chaos can corrupt good. NGs strike a balance and are pragmatic in their use and misuse of the law to do good. In more idealistic works, they're the all-loving hero. In cynical works, they might end up on the receiving end of kill the cutie. So, LGs follow the law to do good. NGs don't care either way. If the law is good, they follow it. If the law is bad, they break it. But a chaotic good believes that laws stand in the way of good most if not all the time. Usually seen in stories that center on revolutions and anti-authoritarianism, chaotic goods value freedom and goodness and see freedom as intrinsic to goodness. They want their freedom to be and do whatever they want. It just so happens that what they want is to do good. They are thieves with a heart of gold, anarchists focused on mutual aid, and rebels with a healthy distaste for the controlling power. NGs don't usually face the dangers of corruption. LGs tend to become blinded by or drunk on the power of the law and enforce it to achieve their own brand of goodness, but chaotic goods walk on even more narrow tightropes than most. They are willing to go great lengths for what they perceive as freedom and goodness, but in their pursuit of one they may lose the other. Pursue freedom too much and they risk losing the altruism they so valued and become apathetic to the sufferings of others. Pursue good and they may lose their own joy and hope, becoming a part or even establishing a new order to keep good alive, running the risk of it becoming the next tyranny altogether. CGs are free to do good and are good when they are free, but they may struggle to have one over the other. The law is law. A lawful neutral character is defined by their adherence to a set of codes and principles and absolutely nothing else. At their most extreme, an LN will never consider personal or external morals. To them, it's not about acting for the betterment of others or advancing one's own goals. It is about upholding the established laws and institutions no matter what. This is of course an extremely simplified version of what an LN is, but take this for an example. An LN, let's say they are a lawman, is confronted with two people, one good, one evil. However, the good person violated the wording of the law, while the evil character obeyed the agreed upon rules and regulations in their pursuit of evil. The lawman, due to their absolute adherence to the law, will go after the good character and leave the evil character be. At their worst, an LN is a lawful stupid, incapable of thinking critically, following only the rules they know. A more nuanced take on the LN would be something like a reasonable authority figure. If LN is more of a character trait, they could manifest as something as benign as a control freak. Now, I could sit here and say that a true neutral character can actually be a retired hero or villain who has decided that they no longer wish to pick a side. they've left behind their pasts and wish to live a life of solitude. But it's funnier to say that a true neutral is more like an NPC, an animal, or a rock. There's a reason why not a lot pick this alignment to begin with in their campaigns or stories. A true neutral is the definition of neutrality. They have no stand. They have no stake. True neutrals can be a decent starting point for any character, particularly action survivors, people who are living perfectly normal, mundane lives but are thrust into crisis and must grow and choose to become something more. Or they could be something like a divine eldritch being who may have created everything in existence but do not intervene or contribute into the lives of the mortals they birth. But in layman's terms, a true neutral is really like this rock over here. There is so much more that can be said about TNs, but I mean, can anyone be any more neutral than this rock right over here? Yeah, I don't think so. Lawful neutrals stick to their code and to the authority they believe in. True neutrals have no opinion and really just want to live out their lives, to be left alone and do their own thing. Chaotic neutrals don't care. If there are laws, they can and will break it with extreme prejudice to get what they want. To them, good and evil aren't absolutes you must hold yourself to. They are means to an end, and that end is their own betterment. While the heroes and villains duke it out for the future of their land, a chaotic neutral may be in the background, stealing whatever they can get while the big boys are too busy to notice. They could even be the mastermind behind the Great War of Good and Evil, and their goals go beyond regular moral standards. Chaotic neutrals, at the end, care about themselves the most. They'll side with the heroes just as much as they'll side with the villains, so long as what they want is achieved at the end of it all. Perhaps out of all the alignments, the CN has the most potential to grow, to move the story however they please. The word law can mean many things. In most definitions, they are a systemic set of rules that are applied within a community that ensure order. For others, laws are merely the promise and threat of violence to coerce the population into following a ruling class, individual, or organization. But laws can also be personal, a set of principles you apply to yourself, and that is where we find most lawful evils residing. A lawful evil is, in my opinion, the most interesting type of villainy to explore. Lawful evils, just like the two other lawful alignments that came before, adhere to a strict code. The difference is that they do so in the name of evil. Main villains who fall under lawful evil are unique. They may want world domination because they believe they can rule better than everyone else. Evil monarchs who wish to impose their law and law alone. Some are more principled villains. Their lawfulness comes from the fact that while they may do vile and unforgivable deeds, they have lines and limits they simply do not cross. Don't involve children, do not deceive both allies and opponents, or simply be affable to your enemies like an anti-villain, likely to be redeemed or fall even farther to the abyss. A neutral good is the best representation of unfiltered good. It stands to reason then that a neutral evil is the opposite, unfiltered evil. Lawful evils may be held back to committing some atrocities because their principles do not allow them so. Chaotic evils have no sense of right or wrong, only the joys in inciting malice upon the innocents. NEs are just plain jerks. Now, some may confuse chaotic neutrals and neutral evils since both are truly in it for themselves and themselves alone. Where they differ is that a chaotic neutral sense of self may encompass their family, their friends, and their loved ones. Neutral evils are defined by their greed. If a lawful evil is gunning for world domination, it's because they believe they can rule better. If a chaotic evil is racing for world destruction, it is because they take pleasure in suffering and destruction. A neutral evil will dominate the world so that they can be on top, and they may destroy the world to satiate their need for revenge, to fulfill the need to serve themselves. Because neutral goods will always act on their sense of altruism, a neutral evil will feed their endless greed. And now the last alignment, and perhaps the most difficult to truly describe. Lawful evil and neutral evil, when you boil their heinous actions down to their essentials, have sense behind it. Inexcusable though their crimes may be, they can at least be understood. To create a new and better world even if it means stepping on others, or to enact revenge on the people who hurt them regardless of the extreme violence they must undergo through. Chaotic evils though, there is no sense to their malice, no rhyme nor reason to their cruel deeds. What purpose is there for a kingdom to take and rule for their own? Burn it to the ground, the ruler along with their subjects. Greed? What use is wealth and status to a monster who would sooner rip those things apart rather than revel in them? Chaotic evils aren't just feral beasts who have no sense of reason and only wish to inflict misery. They could be the genius nihilist who now sees no sense in the world and would rather see everything burned than waste another second living in it. A CE isn't just some uninspired Joker stand-in. A chaotic evil is the most aggressive and terrifying form of evil, and when done right becomes a villain so iconic that it will haunt the pages of fiction for years to come. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe or follow if you want more shorts.